Hey folks, did you know that the Grand Canyon holds secrets that even seasoned scientists are shocked by? Imagine a missing archaeologist stumbles upon giant skeletons, and now everyone just can't calm down. Today, I will reveal to you the whole background of these strange finds, and I will tell you why they cause such a storm of emotions among specialists. Drop what you're doing and buckle up. This is a story worth hearing. The Lost City in the Grand Canyon. In 1909, Dr. Kincaid, an American archaeologist from Arizona, set out on an expedition to study the Hopi people. Backed by the Smithsonian Institution, the scientist had already earned recognition for his work and was particularly interested in studying the culture of this tribe. One day during his visit, Dr. Kincaid heard from a local chief a story about a mysterious underground city hidden deep beneath the Grand Canyon. This news piqued the doctor's curiosity, and he decided to start searching for the legendary site. The research began in the area of the Green River Canyon in Utah. Dr. Kincaid noticed the unusual structure of the sedimentary rocks and the color variations along the eastern edge of the canyon and near the riverbed. According to the locals, the entrance to the underground city was at the end of a long tunnel about a mile long, going deep underground. The very location of the entrance was hard to reach. It was located about 1,500 feet above the canyon floor. The architecture of the discovered structure indicated that the creators of the underground city had advanced engineering knowledge. The main part of the underground complex was a huge central chamber, from which numerous corridors branched out like the spokes of a wheel. The walls of the main hall were adorned with copper utensils and tablets covered in symbols and hieroglyphs, remarkably similar to those known from ancient Egyptian civilization. Giant skeletons in the Lost City. One of the most remarkable discoveries by Dr. Kincaid was the finding of mummified remains inside the citadel. All the mummies found were over 8 feet tall and wrapped in dark fabrics. According to Kincaid, he managed to take a photo of one of the mummies using a flashlight, but those pictures were never found afterward. All the mummies found were over 8 feet tall and wrapped in dark fabrics. Kincaid said he managed to take a photograph of one of the mummies using a flashlight, but these images were never found. Continuing their research, scientists discovered important information about the religious beliefs of the ancient inhabitants of this mysterious city. About 98.5 feet from the entrance, there was a large room shaped like a cross, measuring hundreds of feet in length. In this room, they found worship items likely related to the main deity of the local religion. An idol, sitting cross-legged, held lotus or lily flowers in its hands. In this room, they found worship items likely related to the main deity of the local religion. The idol, sitting cross-legged, held lotus or lily flowers in its hands. His face had Eastern features, just like the images on the cave walls. This image had some similarities with Buddhist depictions, although the scientists of that time couldn't pinpoint whether it represented a Buddhist cult. In addition, the researchers came across pottery and other artifacts marked with trademarks indicating their origins in different parts of the world. This rare mix of cultural influences, which is extremely uncommon among archaeological finds, gave the discovery exceptional significance. As Kincaid himself reported along with his colleague, Professor Jordan, the last chamber they studied turned out to be part of a ritual burial located in a far corner of a huge hall where the mummies were found. However, there is no official confirmation of the existence of this underground city. The Smithsonian Institution categorically denies any suggestions of its involvement in the research of this site. The question arises, why? The origin of the city and its inhabitants. The discoveries made by Kincaid and Jordan challenge traditional views held by archaeologists and anthropologists. Scientists tried to determine the origin of the ancient inhabitants of the cave, but they only concluded that they likely came from some distant region, though the exact location remained unknown. It was suggested that this could have been either ancient Egypt or some area in Asia. Indigenous peoples like the Hopi, Navajo, Zuni, and Apache have inhabited the area around the Grand Canyon for thousands of years. Their oral traditions contain many legends that are often perceived by modern people as fairy tales. One such story tells of mysterious reptilian creatures capable of taking human form, which were believed to have inhabited the region many centuries ago. Other tribes, like the Zuni and Acoma, also have similar myths, but instead of reptiles, they feature giants. It is interesting to note that giant human bones have been found in the western United States on numerous occasions, some of which are housed in the Smithsonian Institution, although access to these exhibits is strictly limited. Although it is generally accepted that Christopher Columbus was not the first person to discover America, the question remains as to who else might have visited the continent long before the Europeans. There's evidence that the Chinese and Vikings reached the shores of the New World before Columbus. So how did ancient people manage to get to such remote places like the Grand Canyon and build such grand structures? I've described these and other sensational finds in my Telegram channel, Unusual America, where I share the most incredible stories from life in the US and important news. Come on in, read, and subscribe. Alien trace. According to the legends of the Hopi people, these could have been ant people, aliens of enormous size, with pale skin and big eyes. The Hopi legends talk about a series of disasters, including a great flood. After that, a divine being descended from the sky, described as a moving star, similar to what you might find in UFO descriptions. This god guided the Hopi to the ant people, who were hiding in a vast underground refuge, escaping from the impending disaster. A logical question arises: could the underground city in the Grand Canyon be the home of those ant people? It's noteworthy that all the mummies found in the cave were of tall stature, which might suggest a connection to these beings. The idea that alien beings may live in secret underground cities on Earth has been reflected in various cultures since ancient times. Today, many believe that they continue to exist among us, remaining unnoticed and scattered across different continents. The Bible, as well as written records from ancient civilizations like the Sumerians, Mayans, and Native American tribes, are filled with mentions of contacts with extraterrestrials. However, science often interprets these legends in its own way. Some ancient texts claim that the star people taught humans reading, writing, and astronomy, passing on knowledge and technology to humanity. This suggests that the star people viewed humanity as their creation and felt a responsibility for its development. Strange government behavior. The mysterious cave in the Grand Canyon is now located on government-controlled territory, where access is closed to the general public. The question arises, did the authorities know about this place over a century ago and decide to hide its existence by restricting access to it? It's known that there are over 1,000 caves in the Grand Canyon, many of which seem to be of artificial origin. But how do you explain the existence of those whose size and complexity clearly exceed what humanity was capable of at the time they were created? Interestingly, out of all these caves, only about 30 are mapped, and many of them have been sealed off supposedly for the safety of visitors. But how do you explain the existence of those whose size and complexity clearly exceed what humanity was capable of at the time they were created? Interestingly, of all these caves, only about 30 have been mapped, and many of them have been sealed, supposedly to ensure the safety of visitors. Some explorers are willing to sign waivers, taking risks, to enter these caves. But the US government has steadfastly refused to provide such an opportunity. Why are they acting this way? Unidentified aircraft and Apache attack helicopters are occasionally spotted flying low over the Grand Canyon, evading radar detection despite the established no-fly zone. Could these aircraft belong to government entities or some secret organization trying to do everything possible to prevent leaks about the possible presence of extraterrestrial life on our planet? A new twist in the investigation. After the information about the cave came out in 1908, the media kept quiet for a long time. It wasn't until 1995 that the well-known researcher and writer David Hatcher Childress from the World Explorers Club in Kempton, Illinois, became interested in this story and decided to dig deeper into it. Childress wanted to figure out whether this story was just a regular newspaper hoax or if there was some truth to it. He later claimed that the cover-up of sensational archaeological finds in the United States began as early as 1881, year with the activities of geologist John Wesley Powell. Childress started his investigation by making phone calls to Washington. The response to his inquiries was nervous and evasive. He was told that nothing related to Egypt had ever been found in either North or South America. Then came the statement that the Smithsonian Institution had never conducted such excavations before. It was also reported that the names Kincaid and Jordan were unknown in Washington. Later, Childress had doubts, because Professor Jordan's name is clearly mentioned in documents from the Smithsonian Institution dated 1910. Nevertheless, Childress realized that the institution might have serious reasons for hiding this sensational find. After all, The educational institution has always supported the theory of isolationism, which suggests that earlier advanced cultures did not interact with each other, while proponents of diffusionism allowed for the possibility of intercontinental cultural connections even in ancient times. The Smithsonian Institution originally held isolationist views. Under the leadership of John Wesley Powell, the Bureau of Ethnology actively promoted isolationist ideas back in the late 19th century. It's better to make scientific discoveries by the book and document the results. What if you got into a car accident in America and don't know what to do next? Where to turn for help? Where can I find a good lawyer? How can you get compensation if you don't have insurance? The company Accident America helped secure $21 million in compensation for its clients. You'll definitely get answers to all your questions here. The link is in the description. Is the origin of the Native Americans connected to a lost city? John Wesley Powell was convinced that Native Americans descended from an ancient advanced American culture that was responsible for building numerous pyramid mounds on the North American continent. The question of the origin of these structures is still controversial. Diffusionists, on the other hand, argue that the ancestors of modern Native Americans had nothing to do with the construction of these majestic mounds. As Childress notes, the views of the diffusionists were not only ignored, but also deliberately suppressed. Childress believes that the builders of these structures definitely had connections with other advanced cultures. Besides him, many other alternative historians have tried to get answers from the Smithsonian regarding the cave in the Grand Canyon. The well-known researcher Jack Andrews, nicknamed the Hunter for the Lost Necropolis in the U.S., received the following letter from the Smithsonian Institution in response to a similar inquiry. These two names are mentioned in an article published in the Phoenix Gazette on April 5, 1909, creating the false impression that Dr. Kinkeith and Professor Jordan were employees of the Smithsonian Institution, responsible for the discovery of Egyptian temples in the Grand Canyon. However, we asked you to keep in mind that this story is not true. So, was there really a mysterious city with giant skeletons? Maybe one day this mystery will be solved. Where is the Grand Canyon? The Grand Canyon, or the Grand Canyon of the Colorado River, is the main natural attraction in the U.S. and amazes with its colossal size. It's 277 miles long, up to 18 miles wide, and over 6,000 feet deep. The Grand Canyon is listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is recognized as one of the wonders of the world. Located in the middle reaches of the Colorado River in northwestern Arizona, near the borders of Utah and Nevada, the Grand Canyon showcases the grandeur of nature. The Colorado River starts in the Rocky Mountains at an elevation of about 10,000 feet, collecting water from melting snow and high-altitude lakes, and crossing the arid regions of the Colorado Plateau. As of today, the Colorado River is heavily regulated. To supply water to the arid areas, reservoirs were built here, including the largest reservoir in the United States, the Meade Dam, located above the famous Hoover Dam. Historically, the Colorado River flowed into the Gulf of California and the Pacific Ocean, but due to numerous hydraulic structures, its waters reached the ocean only during rare strong floods. In the last 50 years, this has only happened a few times. Most of the Grand Canyon is within the boundaries of Grand Canyon National Park, which runs east to west. The canyon divides the park into two parts, the North Rim and the South Rim. Origin of the Grand Canyon. The land through which the Colorado River flows has undergone significant changes over hundreds of millions of years. Rock analysis shows that for most of the time, this area was covered by seas, warm and deep, shallow and cold. However, the region is in an area of active tectonic activity at the intersection of tectonic plates. Vertical movements of the Earth's crust periodically lifted this land above sea level, turning it into dry land. However, the region is in an area of active tectonic activity at the intersection of tectonic plates. Vertical movements of the Earth's crust periodically lifted this area above sea level, turning it into dry land. These periods of alternating sea and land happened over and over again. The final uplift of the Colorado region above sea level occurred between 7.1 and 30 million years ago. Winding rivers began to flow across the newly formed land. The further uplift of the area led to the formation of the high Colorado Plateau. The coastline of the Pacific Ocean has also changed, allowing the Colorado River to find its way to the sea, while its mouth dropped sharply. The significant elevation change between the source and mouth of the Colorado River created a steep gradient in its channel. This gave the water flow the necessary power and drive to level out the new ledges and create a new equilibrium profile. The river's response to this was the formation of a deep canyon. The process lasted millions of years and is still ongoing. Looking down on the Grand Canyon from above, you can see large river bends called meanders. It is hard to believe that the river was able to create such a complex, winding path, cutting through the high plateau. It is clear that these meanders of the Colorado are the legacy of a river that flowed through flatter terrain before the plateau was uplifted and the Grand Canyon was formed. Beginning to cut in after a significant rise in the plateau, the river deepened its bed, preserving all its turns in the Anders. The Grand Canyon is an incredibly dynamic system that is constantly transforming and evolving. This process reaffirms the idea that only those archaeological discoveries that are consistent with Darwin's concept of evolution and, accordingly, with generally accepted scientific ideas, are accepted and become part of public knowledge. And that's all for today. See you soon.